All right. So here we are again, looking at the questions of the community. I'm actually thinking of changing the title of this to like Minion Soldier versus the community or something, but I don't know. Something for a later date. Anyways, let's look and see what is in the Ask the Devs forum today. Leer III, Fenrir. Has the Leer III planet received any further work since the Homestead demo in 2016? If so, is there a chance that we might be able to sneak a peek at some of the new locations / updated art? Well, no. Probably not. I would say 99.9 that it has received no work. Leer 3 is actually in a star system. I forget the name of it, but it is quite a ways away from Stanton. It's out in the border regions of the outside of the current Star Citizen galaxy. It's actually pretty way out there. So chances of it getting work anytime soon are probably next to zero. All right. This question is from Dovacon. Will the Terrapin loadout be unlocked eventually? Shield generator / power plant. Here's why I think it should. Unless it's a bug or something, we should be able to upgrade them just like any other ships. Some say that they're locked because its coolers couldn't be able to handle better components, but as far as I've seen, the ship's components don't follow a linear line on that regard. The stop shields, for example, provide more shield capacity than the default Chamali ones, with actually less cooling requirements. Besides, the choice to configure his ship should be up to the players. You should want to ship with hot shields. You want to ship with hot shields? Then unmount your weapons in order to gain a lot of margin for them. Or maybe someone want to swap them for more stealth-oriented components. I don't really understand why they shouldn't be able to do that. I think that you should just include a safe... Well, I think that when you're looking at a ship like the Terrapin, one of its mechanics is that how it manages heat, and it kind of closes itself off to kind of suppress its heat signature to be more stealthy and whatnot. And so if you have components out there like, cooler shields or other components that run cooler, then that might negate the mathematics that they've set in place for that ship and for that mechanic. And so even though you could technically be able to do it, they're probably saying, oh, no, these are bespoke, These are bespoke for this ship. So when if you were to use something else, then that would totally negate that mechanic, or maybe make that mechanic suppressing the IR far too effective. And they really want you to have like a certain level of gameplay there. They really envision that being very interesting. So they're probably making it restricted and saying that these are the bespoke components for that, just because they want to get that gameplay out of it, even though on the civilian market there's an easier and better alternative already out there. Or it could just be a bug. Dukester, how come speed limits exist in space? Physics. As there is no friction in space, constant thrust will result in constant acceleration. Also, to mention, modern rockets reaches the speed of around 7,500 meters a second. I think they go faster than that, which makes the fastest ship in the game look like a snail. Is there any reason for that? Well, it's... you can make things go really, really fast, but to do so in a controlled way, right? Like, let's say you do 7,500 meters a second and you try to stop or you try to turn. It would either take you forever or it would kill you, right? So this is kind of a happy medium. And if you have two ships trying to fight each other while they're accelerating past each other at 7,500 meters a second, you know, it's going to be like the blink of an eye. You're not going to be able to execute any kind of attack. And you have to realize that despite it being obviously a big fan favorite, the notion of space combat as it's presented in things like Star Wars and Star Citizen and similar media is actually probably very inaccurate. And space combat is going to be something much more akin to nuclear submarines in the water fighting each other with torpedoes rather than the presentation that you're getting in Star Citizen. This is an idealization. Um, it really isn't realistic. I mean, the G forces that you'd be dealing with and trying to overcome, I mean, just like crashing down through an atmosphere at 7,500 meters a second or beyond, and then trying to make a controlled landing would be a very difficult procedure. So it may not be something that falls into the interest or the attention span of the average player. So they may just say, you know what, they probably don't want to spend 15 minutes lining up an entire landing and then waiting for it to kind of slowly work its way down through the atmosphere, slowing down their ship in stages. They may say, I just want to fly the ship down to the surface of the planet. And so that's why it is the way it is. Whoa. Nope, too long. All right, Sora 1. What are the plans for balance in regards to hauling? With 3.5 on the near horizon, I was wondering how the team was planning to address balance in the hauling mechanics of the game. Are there any plans on balancing changes towards profit margins, commodity price per unit, total number of commodity per SCU, amount of risk per reward, risk in both terms, persistence to the Currently, I believe the community agrees that the liability is too high with the current risk and profit margins are too low for the current risk. Well, all right. Are there any plans on making balancing changes? Yes, to all of that. Um, of course, the economy is going to evolve. What you're seeing is a tier zero implementation. Profit margins are going to vary depending on the prices for commodities. Commodity price per unit is going to vary depending on market demand. Total number of commodity per SCU, that's more a question of density. Um, and the size of the actual commodity that you're trying to sell. Risk per reward, now that depends on you. As for cargo persistence through server crash, but also player involvement through ganking, there should be some kind of an insurance mechanism in terms of cargo. You choose to take it, you choose not to take it. Um, how impactful that would probably be a question of balance, but that's also up to CIG to implement that in the first place. Cargo persistence through server crash is something that a lot of people argue in favor of, but the problem is that the system just isn't up to it. There should be an insurance mechanism that kind of covers that in the meantime. There just isn't one. And most of the development time is spent on other things right now. So, realistically, and this is really kind of it's kind of a hard point to drive home with some people, but Star Citizen isn't a game, right? When you play Star Citizen right now, what should you be doing? Well, getting to know the geography, getting to know the interior of your ship, figuring out how to get around in the interior, especially if you own a Starfarer. That sort of thing, kind of figuring out the basics of what works, what doesn't work, understanding that, flying a large cargo ship down to Jumptown and just saying, hey, everybody, just going to Jumptown, nobody shoot me in local chat is probably not a good idea. And, trying to figure out What are the best, what are the best commodities to move around? Because the money that you make right now, even though the profit margins are completely shit, the money that you make right now doesn't count for anything because there's no progression. There's nothing to work towards, right? Everything just gets erased in the next big patch and then you start all over again. So, to a certain degree, what's the point? Right now, a lot of these things are things that are going to come in. Cargo persistence through server crashes is definitely going to happen. That is very much needed, but you'll probably see something like that start to work after server meshing until there's a reliable way to continuously feed up to a world server your status and to achieve any kind of true persistence. That will probably come in part and parcel with that. Um, and as for player involved ganking, losing your cargo, that is more a question of insurance, and that is something that has yet to be ironed out. All right, Gray Mare, new flight model, gas giants, gravity, and the Mist Starfarer mining gas. Have you considered the impacts of the new flight model and ships escaping gravity to the gas mining mechanic? In lore, gas is mined vacuumed from from gas giants from space giants. Will the Starfarer be able to perform its role? Um, I think with the new flight model and what they're going for, they seemed pretty sure of themselves when they presented that idea and how it's going to work in terms of larger ships. And then almost immediately they kind of took a step back from it. He was like, "Oh no, no, that's what I mean. It's those vertical landing thrusters on a ship like the Reclaimer. That's just for landing on landing pads in space. That's not really for landing on planets." And then very quickly that was taken back. It was just like, "Oh no, if they're vertical, then you can take off from a planet." I don't think they really fully considered the impacts that it would have. It seemed like a great selling point at the time, um, for the little helper tractor beam ship, the SRV. But truthfully, I don't think that this is something that CIG is going to kind of go to the presses with, so to speak. I think they're going to end up looking at the situation and saying, "Yeah, we really did not think this out." And I don't want to kind of travel down the darker road and say they only said that just to get more people to buy the tractor beam ship, but I think in my mind it was more, we really did not think this out because in order to manage larger ships. I mean, I saw one person who was, taking me to task over that and saying, "Oh, well, you can't expect changes over here and, not have this over there." What was that comment? One sec. Let me pull this down off of YouTube. What was that comment? There's loads of examples from science fiction. Okay, I think this is it. What was it? There's loads of examples from science fiction of ships that can't go planet side. Constitution Galaxy class starships from Star Trek Imperial Star Destroyer. Yeah, well, we see them flying down into the atmosphere with the Star Destroyer. We saw that in Rogue One. Discovery 1 from 2001, A Space Odyssey. Yep, that's true. There's a lot of good reasons to build a ship that can't land, except, let me just correct you there. All of the ships that we're talking about in Star Citizen can land, have been shown to land, and have landing gear for landing on planets. Because if you didn't need to land on a planet, then you wouldn't even need the landing gear, period. You could just drive up to a docking port and all that mechanism, all that could be removed from the ship, and you would have all this extra space, or you could close off that space, get rid of it, and save a whole bunch of weight, which would make life a whole lot easier. Since the acceleration needed for space travel is much lower than you experience on the surface of the planet, why over engineer a cargo ship? Why indeed when it's not needed? So basically, it would also be a lot faster to offload cargo at an orbital spaceport because you wouldn't have to go through the time-consuming procedure of passing through the atmosphere. Well, the procedure of passing through the atmosphere, once again, is time-consuming by CIG's design, not ours. But when you look at the way they presented it, there's a number of problems with it. Now, we knew that with the Hull series ships and transferring cargo, we knew that those were going to have to go through some kind of a weigh station because of the way they're loaded. I think only the Hull A has just cargo off to the sides. And so they, that ship can go down to a surface of a planet, but I don't think CIG really fully realized what they were doing when they said that. And I think that what you're going to see is CIG really pulling back from that idea with larger ships. Because if you think about it, let's say the Hammerhead, right? Like where? Let's see, Robert Space Industries. Where is the Hammerhead? Ages. There we are. Let's look at the Hammerhead for a second here, okay? So here we have the Hammerhead landed on a planet, seemingly normal gravity, and there's another shot of it here. There it is, taking off, all nice and easy. People walking around, loading cargo, all that stuff going on right now on the ship, right? It's a big planet. It's got its own ocean, maybe orbiting a gas giant like Saturn, something like that. But you see what I'm saying? And here it is, whoosh, taking off. Do you see an SRV dragging it up into orbit? No, you don't. But do you see any big, prominent, like thrusters, VTOL thrusters, like you see on the Reclaimer? No, you don't, right? This is the way Star Citizen was presented to us. Not this plus a little tow ship flying around, pulling it up into orbit. If the Reclaimer is just able to do it because it has these vertical thrusters, what about this ship? What about the Idris? I fully support the idea that depending on certain cargoes, you may not be able to land. But in general, if this ship can't do this, then this is useless in the current context of the game. Because if you can't bring this thing down to a planet, that eliminates so many choices as to where you can land this ship. This places a huge amount of restrictions on this ship that even the promotional art that was used to sell this ship to us, this presented a whole different idea of how this thing was going to work, right? Like, look at this. There's little vortices coming off the back of this thing as it flies up into space. But I don't see any vertical thrusters accounting for all the extra vertical thrust that this thing needs to get up into the atmosphere. Do you? No. So the whole idea, the way they presented it, it's just dumb. It's just a stupid idea. It was a poorly thought out idea, and it's probably going to get pulled back. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. I mean, even with the Starfarer, even if they kept the current model, they'd probably say, well, gas giants was a bit of a stretch. Maybe we'll just get you to use the new gas cloud tech and mine it from nebulas. But yeah, in a universe where there's this, you can't really say that in order to do this, you need to also buy this. No, that's not part of the deal. Once again, same thing. Yeah. All right. Robert Knight, will salvage collected towed items be persistent? Wrecked ships, cargo boxes, etc. Can they be collected? As an example, I'm roaming the universe in my SRV and I come across a wrecked ship and I decide to tow it back to a reasonably local land claim I have, then drop it off. Will it eventually despawn if I take off looking for more ships or log out or whatever? Is it possible to have an actual salvage yard in the game with entire ships that you can pick parts out of as needed, strip the materials as time allows, etc., or even start your own ship restoration garage where you have multiple wrecks of the same ship and piece them together? So, kind of like Watto's shop in The Phantom Menace. So, here's the problem with that. And up front, I like the idea. It's a cool idea. I would be, I would like that. But the truth is you have to look at what comes packaged with that. Where do you draw the line? When does something despawn from the game, and when, what triggers that despawn? Because you're looking at just stacking more and more and more and more and endless amounts of data onto the servers. Oh, now not only do you have to keep track of all this stuff, now you have to keep track of everything the players are keeping. And players are hoarders, right? Like players are massive hoarders. I still have like full raid tier sets, everything set aside from expansions going back, God, to 2000, to the beginning of WoW. Like I still have many of those pieces stashed away somewhere because you never know. But yeah, I like the idea, but the chances are is that would probably open a little bit too much of a door for things to just bog the servers down and kill the server's memory to have to, add in all these different things that the server has to keep track of apart from the basic system, which realistically, even now, with what little persistence we have just in the artifacts, the game still kind of struggles with that, and the servers still tend to die. So it's probably not going to be something that would happen. It would be cool as shit if it did, but I don't think so. Chances are, if a ship gets wrecked somewhere, it's going to exist for a period of time, and then it's just going to despawn and disappear. It's more gravity questions. Sir Burticus. Ship mass value displayed on the HUD. The mass of our ship will become very really. Yeah, a lot of people are really interested in this. Instead of trial and error, I'd like hard figures before I try a descent into a planet's atmosphere or try to climb out of one. Yeah. Can we get a HUD readout with our ship's total mass, hull plus cargo, and to next to the local gravity indicator? Will our Mobi or trading kiosk tell us how much cargo mass we can load or need to unload based on local gravity? Those would all be wonderful things to add to the UI, including a HUD that's better. And 3.5 is supposed to feature improvements, but you know, we'll we'll see when we see, right? Um Overall, I this is kind of going to be something that is going to have to evolve with the system, and chances are the first iteration of this is going to be completely without that relevant information, and I mean, it could be a case of they'll just kind of sit there and say, "Oh, players will work this out for us, and they'll make a website and a guide, and we'll just direct them to that guide, and it'll be easier for us that way, and players will make their own spreadsheets to calculate this, so you don't have to worry about it anymore." They may go that route. It's kind of the lazy way to go, and so they may take that route. They don't have a lot of spare development time, but hopefully we'll get something like that. But first iteration, probably not. This is probably going to be something that you'll have to bang the door down to get. All right. How much has racing been thought into? I love it. I love it. I love it. How much has racing been thought into the new flight mode? Dare I even open this? Shive. How much has racing been thought into the new flight model? Flying on 3 racing tracks, the limiting factor is how fast you can do the turns, and ultimately lap times has been the blackout system. And I am wondering what the new flight model got to remedy that, or what tools it gives to deal with it, if any. Is the idea simply that we learn the target speed for each turn and just off to that? Is there anything we need that we can do to not have the G's pulled me the only factor that matters for that? Wait, what? Is the idea simply that we learn the target speed for each turn? Yes. Just off of that, yeah. Is there anything we can do to not have the G's pulled me the only factor that matters for that? No. That's exactly what it is. I mean, that's racing in Star Citizen currently. I mean, you're talking about fixed tracks, right? You're talking about the racing that's in the game right now, which is kind of blah. That's exactly what it is. I mean, it would be that it's that in the current system. It would be that in the new system. In a fixed track environment, you're going to learn, how you take this turn, how you take that turn. What do you do here? What do you do there? There's a certain amount of dynamics to it in terms of relative to other players. Is someone else in the position that you would like to move your vehicle into? What do you do if that's the case? What speed do you hit? That sort of thing. Those are all the things that you're going to have to learn on a fixed track. On a free track, where you're trekking across a large area and you're a lot more free to explore and take different paths, then that kind of racing opens up. But on a fixed track system, it's always going to be that. It's always going to be that. The only real change, the only thing that's going to be dynamic about that experience is, what the other players do and what you do relative to them. And you know what? With that, I am going to end this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.